Alright, we are back for Chapter 1109, reaction, review, speculation, whatever we got, but our board game analogy has been our perfect tool throughout this entire thing because the board has been flipped once again.
Yeah, it's all over the place, chips keep flying back and forth, can barely keep track of it. We're gonna do the best we can. So first, obviously, the center of everyone's attention, we've got the Vegapunks.
And starts with the chapter of being Stella and Shaka setting up for the broadcast, deciding just how long they want to give people time to set up to turn on their video den and mushies for this broadcast and tune in, which does allude to the fact that whatever they're going to be seeing, they are going to be visually seeing, and so anything else showing up at this island as at risk of being exposed, it seems.
Yeah, and along with Stella and Shaka, Pythagoras joins them shortly after they've begun. And I found that just really interesting that it's the three Vegapunks who have passed away, that we haven't seen any of the remaining alive Vegapunks in the video at all so far. So could that have even all been a plan?
It maybe just even saying these are the three that are going to be done as we leave this island, but we're going to have to wait to see about that. And on the other end of the receiver, you see people from all around the world, kind of like whenever we see a major news update, just getting ready to be a part of this moment.
Yeah, I kind of enjoyed that he gave us that quick look into everyone who was hearing and kind of their process of realizing what's about to happen. First we had Dressrosa with Rebecca and Leo. Love that guy. I'm still gullible as ever.
And of course we had to check out Fuchsia Village in the East Blue with Whoop Slap, the goat with his goggles.
Love him, and just telling everyone, if you'll pay for the video, then we can have it, but audio should be enough. Love them.
It will be interesting if people in Luffy's hometown don't get to see him in his Nika form. They can only hear it.
Oh, that's a good... I never even thought about that.
But we also jump ahead to Water 7, where we see Iceberg and a new assistant who looks very young, but seems very on top of things, being Alice.
Yeah, and then we hop to the World Journal HQ with Vivi, Morgans, and Wapple. Vivi obviously is a little more caught off guard. Morgan's always being on top of everything, clearly points out this is clearly pre-recorded.
And finally, we jump ahead to our final island group, being Kamabaka Island, with Ivankov, Koala, Sabo, and a lot of the commanders in the background. And interesting enough, Dragon gets to have his own panel of reflection back to a conversation we saw at the very beginning of this arc between himself and Shaka, where he said, "I'm gonna die soon, by the way," and he delivered on that promise.
Right, and again, that calls back to it just being very interesting that the three Vegapunks who died before are the three in the video. And I think Dragon's kind of got those wheels turning now of what his idea may be for what their entire plan could have been.
And so jumping into our next group, being the one where they are kind of fighting for their lives instead, being Luffy and Sanji, or what more accurately could just be called Luffy versus Saturn and Kizaru at the moment.
Yeah, because Sanji at this point has kind of been told, like, you know, get yourself to safety, go do your own thing. And then we've got Luffy out here just making pancakes, tossing some pizza dough.
Yeah,
Our goofy boy.
This is definitely not the kinds of fights I think I imagined when I thought of Luffy versus an Admiral or even a Gorosei. But I can't say I'm disappointed because there's something about just the look on Kizaru's face after he's been pizza dough tossed across an island that I don't hate. It's very childlike, and it's very much why I like One Piece, so exactly. I can't complain.
But then on the flip side, it's hard to think that he will continue to be this happy-go-lucky the entire way through, because Saturn isn't taking any damage. He just pops right back each time, basically unscathed.
And he said himself, oh, those punches meant nothing to you, with a big smile on his face, so maybe they're both about to get a bit more serious. And it seems like Saturn's not going to even risk the one-on-one himself, though. He is fully ready to kind of bring in reinforcements and not risk this broadcast going any further.
Right, and when I found it interesting that they seem to be in contact with Saturn, the other four Gorosei, from Marie-Joie the entire time. They were talking to him as the broadcast started, and then made the call later on that we need to come down there, we need to stop him now.
It's incredibly interesting because it almost makes you wonder why he wasn't doing so or actively doing so earlier, as he realized, oh, maybe I'm getting grabbed in the face right now is a humbling enough experience that his hubris finally wore off into thinking I can just take care of everything by myself. Because I imagine that was something he's not really experienced, dare I say, in centuries. So having something like that might be the wake-up call he needed, but if he had talked to them like this from the start, it wouldn't have even reached this point.
No, and the whole I'll make the summons is just so interesting, because then we see the 4 black lightning strikes that look all exactly like the one that Saturn himself emerged from earlier. So they have to have some sort of just direct connection with one another through like some, I don't know, underworld type of like dimension?
Definitely unnatural is the best way that I can think of putting it. But one theory I did hear that is interesting, worth speculating, is what if the reason Saturn was able to tank and recover a lot of the damage is because they kind of also can pool their health and everything together. And as long as they are safe, they can do that. But by putting themselves all on the battlefield, they're now risking the opportunity to actually damage them all simultaneously. So maybe that just speaks volumes as to how important this is to Emu to prevent this from occurring. But in terms of some people that are kind of at major risk of suffering fatal losses, it seems like the very people we were just so excited to see are now kind of our biggest concern in terms of heartbreak.
Yeah, man, and I really don't want it to happen, but Dory and Bragi are actively on their way to help Luffy. And so, with all 5 of the Gorosei about to be there, you have to imagine that they're going to be needed to step in and possibly sacrifice themselves in order to get him off the island and let him escape.
I can also say having an entirely different crew named the New Giant Warrior Pirates already established does not bode well for the pre-existing Giant Warrior Pirates in terms of longevity and coexistence in the One Piece world. It seems like that is setting them up to very much kind of be potentially pawned in order to even give us a chance to get out of here.
Well, and you know that with their loyalties to Nika, the sun god, they absolutely would give their life in a heartbeat.
And even with their help, that might not be enough. So it's worth mentioning some other continuous force that we've been talking about for multiple chapters, being the Iron Giant. And before people will like to comment anything regarding the fact that it is creaking its way along and hardly moving, I want you to remind yourselves that this is ancient kingdom technology. Even in its weakened form, it attacked Marijois. And we happen to have someone on the island with a Devil Fruit ability known for reversing things' ability to age and function. And if Bonnie touches that Iron Giant, there's no saying what could happen.
I would absolutely love that twist. If she can take it back to its original peak form. And at that point, I could see a way out for them, because clearly that was a direct threat to the Ancient Kingdom and the Gorosei back in that day.
And so, with all of our updates handled in terms of all the players on the board once again, we want to turn our attention to a few questions about the major topics it seems this chapter brought to our attention. And we'll start again, like the chapter does, with Vegapunk's message. Just first and foremost, what exactly do we think it's going to be? Obviously, we've offered our own speculation on the previous chapter review, but personally, it seems to me like the Ancient Kingdom's name and whatever Ohara discovered is going to be what he shares with the world.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think we're going to get a lot of the background history, some hidden facts, and maybe people that were around during the Void Century that we'll get some backstory for as well. I think Ohara will also get vindicated. As I said last week, I think that he's going to do right by them and tell the truth about when they were wiped off the map.
It is worth mentioning as well that during Ohara, all the Gorosei were on the Denden Mushi speaking with Clover and them. This time they're actually in person present for it. So I'm curious how much you think of this message is actually going to be relayed. Clover got cut off before he said the name. How much do you think we're going to actually manage to learn about this time, though?
See, I definitely believe that the majority will get sent out. Although, they seem pretty determined and on a mission. I would not be surprised if they're able to get to the broadcast and cut it off before he's able to, I guess, finish everything that he wants to show them. Like, he'll have a final reveal that we won't be able to see yet.
What if he gets most of the Ancient Kingdom stuff out, and as he's about to reveal, like, the One Piece, he gets cut off there?
Oh, yeah, that'd be beautiful.
Because that would be nice to kind of trickle some of the secrets of the world and not have to reveal everything at once during the final saga, and maybe that's what we're going to be finally getting here. But in terms of our second focus of the chapter, we wanted to jump to the fight between Luffy and Kizaru and Saturn. Let's first zone in on Kizaru himself, as he's been tossed, grabbed. He's
done.
He's gone through a lot for somebody who didn't even want to be here. So that was our first question. What do you think Kizaru's even going to do from here on out?
He's going out sad. I mean, he just looks so dejected in that last panel we saw him in, laying there on the ship with all of his subordinates looking down at him. He's beaten. He knows it. And now all of the Gorosei have to come, all 5 of them. That's also clear proof that he was a failure. He was unable to accomplish. He said a few chapters ago they were expecting him to bring heads, and he's getting knocked around. He's done.
It's also got to be mentioned that he did accomplish his goal of killing Vegapunk, something he clearly didn't want to do. That, in my opinion, even on top of everything else he's had to physically endure, I think that's kind of where he checks out. He's done the thing he clearly didn't want to do, and he did anyway, and it was at the expense of himself, it seems. So I'm pretty sure Kizaru is kind of going to be, if anything, more of a background or support character throughout the rest of this arc. And so we have to turn our attention to Saturn, and from the capacity we've seen, like we said, he's not taking a lot of damage from what we've seen, but do we think he can handle Luffy one-on-one? Well, it seems like he kind of answered that himself.
I think he could handle just Luffy, but the issue is now you've also got the Vegapunk broadcast going out, you've got all these other moving pieces, the Giants pulling up. I think it's just all the chaos at once is what's too much for him. And that's why he had to call them in. But it really does seem like Luffy can get moves off, but he can't really get any legitimate hits in. So I do think that he could hold his own 1v1 with Luffy. It's just the situation they all have to step in and kind of help put out all these fires.
And so with them arriving, because we would ask if we think it's potentially anybody else, but it seems pretty clear-cut. It is probably the other 4 Gorosei based on how they're arriving. And with their arrival, the outlook itself of the end of this arc has once again changed. It has gone from we must escape to we can fight back to we might take the offensive to now we have to run again, because if I'm going to be honest, in my personal opinion, having one Gorosei here was a big enough deal. Having all of them here, it is going to be a big enough deal that we can get out.
Yeah. And I mean, at least the Buster Call seems to still have been called off, so you can get past those ships, especially with a coup de burst.
And if anybody else were to arrive to help Luffy right now, it's worth speculating who that could be. It doesn't seem like it would be Dragon or anybody like that, or shown on any of the locations throughout the islands. Garp is obviously incapacitated. It doesn't seem like there's anybody else coming that we can think of directly.
The only one I could suggest is Shanks, but I personally don't see him being there in this moment.
It really does seem like this is kind of Luffy's moment to prove. Is anything going to stop him? Or is this, like Vegapunk said, something that so much happening that people have been waiting on for centuries that it can't be stopped now? And we're going to have to wait again to see that, because as we're on a current break for this week, we're going to have to wait until we get chapter 1110, and that is insane to think about how many chapters that is. But we hope you guys come back again to listen to what we have to say about that chapter in the future. Make sure you guys subscribe so you can come back to join our discussion, and make sure to comment with any of your thoughts on how you think we are going to get out of this situation. And as always, don't forget, be crew.